Yeah.
I hate them.
It's easy.
I liked having it and then I found
Yeah,
a
it's good to have.
distraction.
Yeah. Welcome everyone to the May 8th Town of Lewisboro Town Board meeting. Thank you for the folks who are here. It's a nice showing for that tonight. And the folks on Zoom as well. So there's for the folks here, there's an exit towards the front of the building and an exit towards the rear of the building. If you will, please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll start with public comment, but I just want to mention one thing. I got a phone call not so long ago from someone who asked if on the agenda we were going to have a discussion about a Lake Kitchewan property. So it is not on the agenda. So just so everyone is aware. Now you're free to speak to it during public comment, but we're not. It's not going to be a Q&A. It was just us listening into your statements. Okay. So with that, anybody here would like to say something?
Hi, my name is Glenn DeFaber, Cross River. It's not about this. I didn't even know about this. Last time I was here, it was during a budget meeting. And you weren't spending a penny of town dollars to pave the roads until you put in $150,000, something like that. At that time, the superintendent of the highway said we needed to do 9 miles of road a year just to stay current. We are doing 2 miles of road a year. Or I don't know how many years that's been going on. Well, I'm usually a calm person. But when I read in the record review that you're going to borrow $2.1 million for bike and crosswalks, I thought I was in the twilight zone. My subdivision, and I see it's going to get paved. 39 years with one micro paving, but we're going to spend $2.1 million. I once said to Dan, why don't we borrow money to pave the roads? I can't remember what you said, but it sure wasn't. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. You've been on the board now 16 years, and your first election, you were going to get bike paths and crosswalks put in. So now we're putting bike paths and crosswalks put in when we don't have anybody walking anywhere. I live in Cross River. You're going to have 3 people using the crosswalks where the whole town has to drive on roads that have more potholes and patches than clear spots. So that's all I can say. And I'm really disappointed. And I hope these other people really tell you what they think also. Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else?
How you doing, everybody? Paul Gallagher, Lake Kitchewan Association President. We're here to talk about the beach property acquisition. I know you pretty much know the story, but for others who don't, the property, we've had access to this property for almost 100 years. It's our beachfront, it's our common property. There's 155 homes that have deeded access to this property. And in the 1950s, the developer who had currently owned the now Levy Preserve bought this property from the original developers with the hope of being able to make people who a possible development in Levy property could use the beach and our lake. That never happened, of course. It became the Levy Preserve. And in the meantime, our association purchased property that surrounded it to landlock it basically so that nobody could cross it without trespassing on our property. So it's completely isolated. In 2008, the developer decided the property was worthless and stopped paying the taxes on it. Subsequently, the town got the property. So at that time, when the Levy Preserve was formed, I was with Paul Gallet, the attorney for the Westchester Land Trust, and with Jim Nortman. We were standing over a map, and I told them what that property was, and they said, we want nothing to do with it. It's nothing but a liability. We don't want it in the preserve. So they removed it from the sale. We've since got written confirmation from the Westchester Land Trust that is not encumbered by any of the conservation easements, and it was never part of the preserve. So subsequently, at the town board's request, we got an appraisal done. And excuse me, when I talked to the appraiser, he came back and he said, okay, it's worth $2,000, but it's the most worthless piece of property in my 30 years of appraising property, because it's nothing but a liability that's not really worth anything to anybody but the people of Kitchewan. So our goal is to obtain that property just so that there's no outside influence telling us how we can use our own property that we've been using for almost 100 years. Right now, as the town owns it, really, again, to the town, it's nothing but a liability. If somebody gets hurt on that property, they could sue you. And it's central to our neighborhood. It's big, it's a part of our neighborhood. So some people just wanted to come to show support. Some people wanted to voice their opinion, but we all agreed that we would all be brief and we would all be respectful. So thanks, Paul. Sure.
Yeah, sure. And there is a three-minute time limit, so just wanted to remind everyone of that comment.
Okay, I think I can handle that. It's just one piece of paper. Okay. Members of the Lewisboro Town Board, members of the Lake Kitchewan Association, and citizens of the town of Lewisboro. My name is Joseph Niola, and I'm a citizen of the town of Lewisboro, residing for over 40 years in the Lake Kitchewan section of Lewisboro. I have also been an officer on the board of Lake Kitchewan Association for several years. Prior to my retirement, I have worked in the real estate title industry for over 30 years as a title examiner and title insurance agent for both First American and Chicago title insurance companies. So I know something about deeds and things of that sort. I can appreciate the difficulties that can occasionally arise in the field of title determination, such as the issues that may have been brought to the attention of the board surrounding the status of the premises in question, known as Lake Kitchewan Beach. I'm not here to make any statements regarding how title to this parcel is in fact held, but rather to attest to certain past circumstances that have transpired between the town of Lewisboro and the Lake Kitchewan Association. I speak of a time when the town of Lewisboro claimed title to the Lake Kitchewan beachfront with power to sell or convey. These circumstances have a bearing on certain decisions that are pending today. Several years ago, I was presented with a deed document purporting to convey the Lake Kitchewan Association by the town of Lewisboro the parcel known as the Lake Kitchewan beachfront with a minimum in financial consideration. If it were not for a significant error in the legal description on that document, we might not be discussing the matter this evening. No further initiative was made by the town to issue a corrective deed for this parcel of land that was landlocked and burdened with rights-of-way easements established in perpetuity in favor of Lake Kitchewan community property owners. These rights-of-way easements over the beach parcel could not be abrogated or revoked by any successive title owner or entity. And therefore, in terms of marketability, the parcel appeared practically worthless to any informed purchaser. No residential structure could legally be constructed today due to its proximity to the lake and its burden of easements. No reasonable appraised value could even be placed on the parcel if ever the sale became an option. I'm here to remind the board of the town of Lewisboro of an early intent by town officials to convey title to this beach parcel to the Lake Kitchewan Association and no other person or entity, regardless of any monetary gain some town official may have in mind. The citizens of the Lake Kitchewan community are voters who are active and concerned citizens, well aware of what is just and fair, and they will not take lightly a town government that fails to consider the merits of certain decisions proposed by prior administrations.
Thank you.
In conclusion,
Okay.
if there is no way to change a plan to sell the beach to any person or entity, I propose. If there's anyone else that is prepared to speak, may I have 1 minute of your time? Thank you, Karen. In conclusion, if there is no way to change a plan to sell the beach to any person or entity, I propose that the town of Lewisboro offer to the Lake Kitchewan Association a right of first refusal or first option to purchase for a minimum in financial consideration. In light of the undisputed fact that the town of Lewisboro, who holds title to a parcel of land known as 130 Lake Kitchewan Drive in the Lake Kitchewan community, is in delinquency for common charges due to the Lake Kitchewan Association. A lien in the amount of $4,195 plus filing fee is currently on file in the office of the Westchester County Clerk, Division of Land Records, and is a matter of public record. The town may be too financially burdened to pay all its just debts, but it is certainly not too poor to provide a deed for the Lake Kitchewan Beach to the Lake Kitchewan Association. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else here would like to speak? How about on Zoom, Janet?
I do have 3 people.
Wait, Karen, did you want to?
Really quickly.
Hi, Karen Conti, Lake Kitchewan. I'm here on behalf of my husband and myself and my kids, and our house was built in 1924, so almost 100 years we've had lake access. And I know there's all kinds of, I don't have all the legal details, but I do know that we've always thought it was our beach. And if there's something that you can do to expedite, going through legal matters or filings or whatever it is, so that you can give us the option, or as Joe said, the right of first refusal, so we can buy our beach, that would be great. It's very important to all of us. And without the beach, there is no Lake Kitchewan. It's just I don't know what we would call ourselves. So thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
I just ask one more time. Is there
Anybody
anyone-
else here? Would like to speak? Sure. Yeah.
I've lived in this town 76 years. This is the most ridiculous thing I've seen happen. But I'd like to say,
First, for the record.
I would like to say that my name is Ron Egloff, and I'm here in Lake Kitchewan for 76 years. I'd like to say that this is ridiculous, the whole thing. And the fact being that if this thing was to get the lake messed up totally, which it would if you sold it to another person, you'd end up with 7 roads to take care of. Being that I worked on the highway for 25 years, I know what it's like to take care of roads. Now, those roads would have to go to you guys. And that, and then alone, so I'm looking out for the town, I'm looking out for the lake. And that's my opinion.
Thank you, Ron. Amy?
Good evening, Amy Hodges, 161 Lake Kitchewan Drive. I don't know if it's been impressed upon you, and I just want to follow up what our community is. I think in Lewisboro, so you know, I've worked with the town for 21 years. I'm really cognizant of the community. We have a neighborhood. It's unusual. We are close knit. This is the center of our community. And it is really upsetting that we're even here having this conversation. We've all bought our properties with a private beach. It's in our deed. And if anything happened to that, it would devastate our property values. We are not a wealthy community. And the impact you would have on us economically and just our quality of life, it's quiet. We appreciate that. And I think anybody in a Lake community will tell you the same thing. So please remember, we are a community and we want to keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Hi, I'm Leah Gregor. I live on Laurel Road in Lake Kitchewan. I've lived there for 20 years. As Amy said, we purchased the house based on having the lake rights and the beautiful lake. My kids grew up on that beach. Their friends all went to that beach. Most everybody here's family spent so many hours on that beach. And also we've maintained it for many years, many countless hours. We have been planting flowers or raking sand or spreading things. So we spent a lot of time just maintaining the beach too. So as Amy was saying, the beach is really important to us. It's a focal point of our community. We've all spent a lot of time there. Our families grew up there. So I would just like you to consider the acquisition of the beach.
Thank you, Amy. To speak? Okay, and now we'll go to Zoom.
Okay, sure. Simone Petromelis, I'm asking you to unmute.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, wonderful. I'm not speaking about the lake community. We don't have a lake here. We have puddles because our roads aren't paved. I wanted to speak about polling of the board. Last time on April 24th, Dan, you spoke about gun control in the polling of the board. That's a big issue to put in polling of the board. It's a national issue. It involves talking about mental illness and all sorts of things. And I really think it does it a disservice for such a serious issue. Now, if you meant to talk about crime, we could talk about our cars getting stolen and our cars getting broken into. So I'm not quite sure why that was spoken about and why it was spoken about in polling of the board. The other thing I wanted to say is I know that we notice and shout out to everything, every holiday from Pet Rock Day on down. But the last meeting fell on the Armenian genocide. It's a day of remembrance. I am part Armenian. And from 1915 to 1923, over 1.5 million Armenians were slaughtered. It was a genocide. It's absolutely horrible. If you go to Turkey to this day, you could be killed for even mentioning it because they would like to pretend it never happened. I'm not saying that anybody's at fault for not mentioning it, but if we are going to mention everything from like Pink Hair Day to whatever, I think something as serious as this should have been mentioned, especially on the day the meeting occurred. And then finally, I just want to say, I haven't brought this up in a very long time. I've had different conversations with different board members. The water at Oak Ridge is still not fixed. Recently, my mother was hospitalized a second time. Again, they're telling me it's from bacteria. Again, they're telling me, I actually had the county health department call, and they were trying to find out why. And they asked me if she had traveled and been anywhere with bad tainted water. And I said, no, she doesn't have to leave her home because they have bad tainted water right in her house. So I don't see anything getting done. I don't know where the money is coming from or if it's coming. I know we celebrated it. And I just want to remind you, I haven't gone away, and we are getting another water test to see if we could connect it legally. And if that happens, well, I'm not going to say anything further, but it's extremely upsetting. And my mother shouldn't have to go through this. Neither should babies and just whoever lives there. It's absolutely abhorrent. It's 2023. We're talking about lake rights. Doesn't anybody have water rights to drink healthy, clean water? Thank you again.
Thank you, Simone. Carol Cernak, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, Carol Cernak, South Salem, New York. I'm not sure where I came in on this meeting, so I'm not sure if public communications have been read into the agenda.
No, not yet.
Okay. So I hesitated to speak before this, but the thing that I want to speak to before my letter is read is that what my main concern with the lease agreement with Hickory Homes is that the parameters on the lease agreement are not specified. There's not a volume, there's not cubic yards, there's not you know, how much room is allowed for timber and mulch processing and maintenance, which takes up at if the lease agreement is a half acre and it's 0.43 acres, you're going to need at least twice that amount of land. It's very concerning. Why leave this up to Hickory Homes to decide what permits they need and what the parameters of their operation are? The lease agreement is negligent as far as I'm concerned. It's great in one way, it's really lax in another way. The other thing I'd like to know is what is the town's contribution to that lease agreement? Do we even know? Because we haven't left it bare and accumulated for at least a year. And to be honest, I don't trust what our highway superintendent says. So you cannot trust Hickory Homes based on their previous agreement with us. They have not followed our town guidelines, our environmental concerns, our water restrictions. They have not followed any of our guidelines, and yet you are willing to give this lease agreement to Hickory Homes. I'm not sure where you're why you would do this. I just don't understand it. That's the end of my phase one. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Jim O'Connor, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, this is Jim O'Connor from Vista. I just like to get an update to the Ethics Town Code. I know the board was working on that, and if there's anything else that's been pushed, any more information that's needed from the public, or is it going to be open to the public, or what have you guys decided on in regards to the ethics of letter writing and participation of the public and their input? And one of the reasons why I bring this up is just ironically, about a week ago, I was listening to the radio and I heard George Latimer, who's our county executive, and he went about his whole commercial was on sustainable Westchester. And the reason why I bring that up is because we know that the person who sits on that board for the past 16 years has been promoting himself and his company. And sort of, I noticed that our rates in the last 20 years, or actually last 10 years, have gone up considerably. And I know that our governor is going to increase our electric rates by 17% the following year. So what I would just like to hope is that the board revisits the Ethics Town Code, and we're allowed as taxpayers that we're able to write letters, and hopefully they would be addressed. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jim. That's it.
So, okay. Okay, next we have the consent agenda. I'm sorry, communications, sorry. So I have, does everybody want to read those?
I can do it.
Yeah. I'll read this one first.
Wait, we've got to wait for the.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Good night, everyone. For those on Zoom, we're waiting for the crowd to clear. You can leave the chairs. That's
Yeah,
fine.
you can leave the chairs. That's
Thank
okay.
you, though.
Thanks, bye-bye. All right, so I have a letter that was written or sent by the New York State Department of Transportation to the New York Senate Majority Leaders, Andrew Stewart Cousins, as well as the Speaker of the Assembly, Carl Hastie, and this is related to Route 35. Dear Majority Leader Stewart Cousins and Speaker Hastie, in support of the shared goal of enhancing traffic safety, I'm pleased to inform you that the New York State Department of Transportation has allocated up to $3 million to conduct a study to evaluate the traffic flow and safety on State Route 35 and State Route 202 from the Hudson River to the border of Connecticut. The study will include the Bear Mountain State Parkway in Yorktown, the town of Cortland, and the city of Peekskill located in Westchester County. The department will provide a report on the findings from the study to the governor and legislature. And this was sent by Janet Ho, who's the Assistant Commissioner of Finance and Integrated Modal Services for the New York State DOT. So I'd just like to share that I know that our state representatives have been working hard to get more done on New York State Route 35 here in Lewisboro, especially. We got as far as getting them to pave that dangerous section over by the Meadows in Cross River. So they're going to start that work in June. They didn't want to do anything more than that because of the fact that they were waiting on a study to figure out what the long-term design of Route 35 will be. So this study will help them identify what that design will be. So I'm very glad to see that this is going through and that the state's allocating $3 million towards that study. So hopefully good things will come out of it.
And just to repeat, that study is going to observe the roads all the way up through the border of Connecticut.
Correct. All the way from the Hudson River to Connecticut, which includes the section going through Lewisboro. Right.
All the way past 123. Yes,
Correct.
we are re-emphasizing that.
So that's a good thing. Yes. And yes, and they will be paving that stretch of 35 between 121 towards Old Shop Road, starting this summer, I think in June.
And the culvert area as well.
Well, that's a different project.
Right.
And also they're going to go north on 121 for a bit up till like where the high school property starts. So that work is going to commence this week. I mean, the next month, June. And then the culvert that Mary just mentioned, that's another job that DOT is doing. They're replacing the culvert that's on Route 35 between Bisbee Lane and Spring Street, I think it was. Yeah, there's a culvert there that I didn't even know existed, but obviously there is one. So that'll cause a little bit of work because they have to, the culvert runs underneath Route 35. But that's not going to happen until I think it was 2024 or so. But we'll get updates on that and share them with everyone.
And this is the letter that Carol Cernak mentioned in the public comments. And she writes to the town board about the salt dome lease and mulching processing facilities. I have a few questions and concerns about item C, soil hauling, and item D, lease agreement, in parentheses, the salt dome, and would like to have this letter read into the communications portion of the agenda. I've lived and worked in Lewisboro for a better part of 45 years and have worked as a property manager of 125 acres, with half being wooded and the remaining being hayfields. We also have a composting operation, so I'm familiar with managing timber, mulch, leaves, and soil. I have fought for the environment and our water quality during that time in Lewisboro. The proposal for 740 cubic yards for soil hauling at a cost of $15,000 was surprising to me for a couple of reasons. I had not seen it posted anywhere requesting bids, and then to see that proposal submitted is Hickory Homes. Can someone explain to me how this came about and why it wasn't put out for bid? Also, does the 740 cubic yards of soil contain drain cleanouts and roadside dirt and gravel? What is the fate of this dirt? Will it be used as fill, processed and sold and disposed of as contaminated? Does Lewisboro want to be known for contamination of improperly disposed of soil? The lease agreement at the Salt Dome submitted by Hickory Homes at a value of $1,200 a year. Is the lease agreement only for timber and soil from the town of Lewisboro, or will Hickory Homes be allowed to bring in product from their own operations? Will the mulch be stored on site and removed at a later date, or will it be ground into trucks and immediately hauled away? I'm not sure why Hickory Homes would be granted 2.5 days per week for processing soil and 6.5 days a week. I think that's what you mean, Carol. I'm not 100% sure. Weeks for processing timber. Tremco removed 2 years worth of timber and mulch in 3 weeks at a cost of $55,000. Considering we will soon have a new highway superintendent in January of 2024, why not wait to see what ideas they would have for the timber, mulch, soil at the site? They might have a completely different plan, but will be tied into a lease agreement with Hickory Homes for 3 years. Hickory Homes has already shown us that they don't want to follow protocol on several levels from the DEC on safely maintaining mulch piles. This could not only be a fire hazard, but also potentially contaminate surrounding wetlands and cause air pollution in the form of odor and dust. Why not use the town's chipper to grind what is capable of processing? I know there are size limitations, but why not put it to use and reduce what we can? I would urge the town board to have a wait and see stance on this lease agreement for the reasons stated in this letter. There is no harm in waiting until we have a new highway superintendent. How much timber soil is produced? And certainly not award the agreement to Hickory Homes, as we already know they don't care about our community, our environment, and our laws. We've seen their true colors. Lastly, I don't believe the 0.43 acre lease agreement area at the Salt Dome is large enough to operate in a proper manner. There simply isn't enough room for equipment, timber, mulch, and soil. And to date, nothing has been done to screen the Salt Dome operations from the South Salem Cemetery. For your convenience, I have attached the lease agreement in question and the DEC guidelines for maintaining mulch.
Thank you, Mary.
And that's from Carol Cernak of South Salem, New York.
Okay, so on to the consent agenda. I'd like to motion, we approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. New business. So the first item we have is acknowledgement of receipt of the MS4 annual and interim reports. And the announcement that the MS4 annual report has been posted on town website. So the MS4 is a report that's required by the municipality to have on file and to write. And this is done by Code Sessions, our wetlands engineers. And MS4 is a municipal separate stormwater sewer system. So we did receive those reports and they have been posted to the website. So here it's just a formality to acknowledge receipt of those reports and the fact that they've been posted. Anything else with that or Greg?
No, once the comment period is over, then we can adopt the report. We're not just saying that's correct.
Correct.
There's a 30-day comment period.
Okay, so wait 30 days before we, yeah,
You can adopt.
okay.
Right, so
got
the
it.
public has 30 days to comment, they can write us letters, they can do.
Right.
They can send in emails.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, next on the list is an application from Majid Enterprises for peddler's license during the South Salem Fire Department parade. So we received that application. We had our police chief review it. He was okay with it. Our town clerk received the application. And so this is it's up to the board now to pass a resolution to allow Majid Enterprises to peddle during the South Salem Fire Department parade. Right, motion to accept the application of Majid Enterprises for peddler's license for the South Salem Fire Department parade. Have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, then we get to the proposal for soil hauling and disposal. So this is the soil that's been collected by our highway department, both from work that they do around town, as well as clean outs of storm drains, catch basins, etc. So the soil has gotten to a level where we need to clear it out. There was a request for proposal by the highway department to 3 different companies, and Hickory Homes and Properties came back with the lowest bid of $15,000 to haul and dispose, loading, hauling, and disposal of 740 cubic yards of on-site soil. Now, that's not all of it. That's a large portion of it, but it's not the whole thing. And the proposal is valid until May 15th of this year.
There were all the other bids for this, and this is the lowest bid.
That is correct. Proposals, no bids. This was not a bid. It was
Is under 30.
We're looking for pricing
yeah, so it was a
to
request
see
for
what it was gonna
proposal.
run, right?
Yeah, right,
The most economical proposal that was submitted.
correct.
And Greg, could you just remind the town what we are required to put out to bid by law?
Any public works project that is anticipated to be over $35,000 contract value, and any purchase of goods that is anticipated to be over 20,000. So this particular proposal or set of proposals was for removal of a portion of the accumulated stockpiled soil, and all of the anticipated number was not considered to be a bid number, and the proposals bore that out. But when we discussed it at the front end, a formal bid wouldn't have been necessary. So if they all came in at, over $35,000, we'd be in a different story. Right. That's not how it transpired. So,
And just because of that, we're not required to take the lowest bid.
exactly.
We have other criteria that we can look at in determining who we'd like to do the work.
You can take whatever one of the proposers you feel is qualified to do the work, regardless of the price. In this scope of prices, we're all under the threshold.
So, my calculation, this is 37 truckloads of soil that they're taking away for this. So the disposal, is there any? So it was kind of mentioned, is there any requirements as to how that has to be disposed?
That I don't know.
Theirs.
That's
When they move it up,
their responsibility.
when they take custody of the soil.
Yeah. And there's just a little more to what they stated here. The sign tickets. There are sign tickets by Lewisboro personnel for each truckload, so there's a verification that of the number of trucks that are being loaded.
And I think
It's a touch screen.
the implication or the one of the questions that seemed to be implied was, Colin, Rich's question, where is the material being disposed of? And I guess perhaps the public wants to make sure it's not being disposed of within the town of Lewisboro, that the whole point is for them to take it somewhere away from the town, and this isn't something that's going to be dumped in a backfield somewhere.
That's correct. It's not being dumped in Lewisboro, no.
And it's not a 3-year contract.
Correct. Just remove it, right? So the motion is to move forward with Hickory Homes and Properties for loading, hauling, and disposal of 740 cubic yards of on-site soil. Do I have a second? Second. Roll call. Need a roll call?
Oh, okay, I was waiting for discussion.
Okay, discussion after, yeah, so we have a second, no discussion.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
that's good.
All right, so here's my question. We are privy to the other proposals.
I
mean, not right
Yeah,
now.
I'd have to
I
check.
mean-
Yeah, well, I don't have them here, but we could get them from highway, yes.
So because there seems to be some concern, I have a suggestion. The
Mhm.
Suggestion is to allow the board to review the other proposals, to take into consideration other factors aside from price and comparing, and then come back at the next meeting and vote, unless we're under some sort of time constraint between now and the next meeting, just so that when we do vote, that the public feels more confident that we made a decision not based on just past practices or a past relationship, but the fact that we ourselves took into consideration the reputation and business practices of the other participants in the RFP. It's just my thought.
Anyone else?
Do we know how far off the other bids were?
I don't have that information.
I think Mr.
Yeah.
Marchetti said not all off that far from one another.
That's my recollection.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind if people want to take more time, and this, you know. no
We're only
emergency.
talking two weeks.
Yeah, that's fine.
It is after the deadline of the price.
Of this, of this
Sure,
proposal, right?
the Hickory Homes.
Well, this is before us because it was reviewed by the highway super and council. What's the
Right,
process?
The highway, because the highway superintendent wants to move forward with,
No,
cleaning out
but
the
it got
soil.
to us, because what I'm saying is there were multiple proposals which were requested, multiple came in, and this is the least expensive, so that's why this one is.
Yeah, and I
before
will
us,
say,
right?
this is a little bit different maybe than like the lease of the property. This is basically a measurable, like they're taking so much out.
It's a one-time thing.
So maybe, you know, in terms of the business practice, it's worries, they potentially a little bit less than something with a long-term relationship like that, so.
I don't
Yeah, I mean,
disagree.
it's at least expensive, there were multiple, and I mean, it's being, as Andrew said, it's being, moved out of town as it's supposed to be, so.
and we did this with the wood debris, right? So the wood debris, but that was an actual bid spec that was put out. We awarded it to Trumpson for $54,000.
And actually, no, and just rereading Carol's letter, nowhere in her letter did she say that this is not a competitive price for what's being done. It's not mentioned, it's not, like I just did.
No, I believe-
37 truckloads of soil for $15,000 seems like.
I believe
reasonable
her
amount.
concern is just based on her past feelings that in, our dealings with Hickory Homes was really not pleasant for her, and she had very strong opinions about their manner of doing business within the town. And when she saw the name again, it seems that she's feeling a little wary about a town's decision to engage with them again. This is a suggestion on my part that we just look at the other companies to compare. I'm not saying that we wouldn't award this RFP or the proposal to Hickory Homes. It was just a suggestion to put some minds at ease. But
I'm a little concerned now that if we go past the
May
offer
16th.
date, that we might actually end up paying more.
Yeah, this is only applying to this one time.
It's one project.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
It's
it's one, it's a
not-
one and done,
it's-
they're taking it, that's it, so I'm.
And there's still gonna be more soil left behind. This is not taking all of it.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
so
actually,
we
we,
revisit
this,
it. That's what you're saying.
this is
Unless-
furthering the point that residents like Carol have brought up, to make sure that the site gets,
Cleaned
cleared
up.
out. That's what we're addressing.
That's what we're
It's the
trying to
next
do, right?
phase of what we're trying to do.
with the lease agreement, if we went that route, there would be soil processing, so the remainder of that soil would be processed.
Right, but we're not up to
under
that
but we're-
point.
Right,
Okay.
Okay.
So,
I understand.
Yeah, I'm inclined to go ahead.
okay, so we'll hold off till the next, meeting.
No, I thought-
Sorry.
It's on flip flopping.
Oh, you're flip flop, yeah, sorry, I didn't get the flip
Dan's
flop.
concern is that if
Yeah.
we wait
Yeah.
until the next meeting,
It's
that
gonna
we
be
will
more
have
expensive.
their price is available until May 16th.
Right,
If we do what I suggested and postpone it to the next meeting, we will have passed this deadline. And, you know, as we sit here now, we have no way of reaching out and saying, hey, would you guys hold off until our next town board meeting?
Mhm.
If, you know, if we knew the answer to that question, I guess it would be easier to make this decision.
We have a price lock for a week.
And I just don't know, you know, frankly, if there are, you know, 3 other bidders and it's, you know, XYZ company and they're $16,000 and, you know, what basis I'm gonna have to sort of
Mhm.
second guess, like, well, this is a much better company than these guys. I doubt that I would have that ability, at least in this time.
And as you said, they're hauling it away.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there's not skill involved, I'm saying they're just hauling it away. So,
Then I'm gonna, I'm inclined to go forward with it, but I just want to make sure that this is gonna be done during regular business hours.
oh, yes.
It's because there's nothing on here, but I want to just
Well,
make
let's
sure
just-
it's done between, I think it's what, 7 AM and 4 PM?
Something like that, yeah, 3:30 or 4.
Okay.
Is when they shut the
Yeah,
gate.
so
Yeah.
so long as this work is done during,
Mhm.
essentially working hours as it were, because I don't want anything done after hours.
Right.
Late, really early in the morning or in the evening. That would be disruptive to the neighbors.
can I make one more suggestion moving forward? Next time we have to make a decision like this, it would be really helpful that we had the other proposals so that we could actually talk about it.
Yeah, I'd have to check the email, but I thought they were distributed by highway. But
Maybe I'm mistaken and I missed it, but I understand. Yeah, I went back.
So I think we need a motion.
I did.
yeah,
So we had a second on the motion.
Did we have a second? Shannon?
Yes, Tony and then Dan.
Tony motion, Dan second.
Correct.
Right.
And so
Okay,
roll call.
and right, roll call. So, Rich?
Yes, subject to making sure it's during business hours, yes.
Barry?
yes.
And I'm a yes.
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 Okay, next we get to the lease agreement for wood and soil processing, so that I had distributed it to the board. I know it seems like there's still some questions on,
Well, it says here, the copy I'm looking at doesn't seem to have appendix B. And appendix B is where is described.
that's the one with the drawing of the site?
No, it says shall provide a schedule of all wood processing, soil processing activities and operations to be conducted at the leased premises, which will be appended to year 2 as appendix B. So it sounds like more than just a map. It sounds like they're going, it's sort of addressing.
Schedule.
Yeah.
I
Like
didn't
some of
see
the,
that.
addressing some of the questions that.
What section are you reading that in?
raised. It's item 4 in this.
Article 4?
Article 3, I'm sorry, yeah, Article 3, number 4.
Tennis board policy.
And that exhibit B is not appended. That I can see, unless.
Post schedule.
A
Yeah,
proposed schedule for wood processing, soil processing activities. I took that to mean that after, it says here, which then requires approval of the landlord, a minimum of 14 days in advance of such activities.
Yeah, but there's no schedule B
Right.
attached.
So the
Shall be
This is-
appended here to his
The
exhibit.
process should be, if you're inclined to move forward with it, you're going to approve it in form. The vendor is then going to give you a signed lease with the deposit check and the schedule of operations for your approval before you countersign.
And that was my.
Because that's annually going to change. The actual provisions for the operations processes that Councilman Sclaren came up with me maybe well over a year ago. Okay, in terms of the restrictions, the days, how many days of per week, how many weeks a year for the soil and for the water, for the wood processing. That's all in there, but we did want a specific schedule once we had a vendor for lease, when they were going to be doing it within those parameters. And I mean, certainly ask for it or you approve it. And that's how I anticipated it happening, but certainly not wrong to ask for it in advance as to what they're proposing, see that it complies with the schedule of operations in Article 3. If that's what you're inclined to do, it's fine too.
Subject.
It's all subject to a permissive referendum.
Right.
Nothing's going to start right away.
So, we just went through where we paid $54,000 to remove the wood debris that had been accumulated. Carol mentions in her email over the course of 2 years. We also spent $59,000 on taking down a bunch of ash trees. Dead ash trees. Does that mean that our wood debris that we're going to be potentially storing at the salt dome will diminish now that we've eliminated these ash trees? And will the wood debris be less than what we've accumulated in the past? And I guess my point is, are we going to have a situation where we're going to have a large pile again that's going to cost us another, if we wait 2 years, another $60,000 to remove? And the attractiveness of a lease agreement is that there'll be no cost to the town for that removal. Same thing with the soil processing. That's the advantage to having this type of agreement. Like Bedford does this as well. But I also see the point where, maybe it's worth seeing how over time, how much debris we actually accumulate. But either way, it's going to cost us to haul it away, right?
And this is something that actually, we talked a little bit about and actually incorporate something that was Carol's communication. I think we should get a little input maybe over the next 2-week period for the next meeting from the potential highway superintendent. Just canvas them and get some feedback.
That means waiting until January, right?
No, not till January, just even.
Question, the approval that is being requested here is for the lease agreement, the document itself, and if not do, it doesn't say whom the tenant is, perhaps you can clarify. Is it Hickory Homes again?
It is. They're the ones that responded.
They were the only ones
They're
that
the only ones who
responded.
responded, correct, to the bid specification for this lease. And it just to reiterate, it does incorporate the restrictions that we know we had
Rich-
issues with. We had that Rich helped create together with Greg. But it was based on feedback we got from neighbors.
Yeah, and I know specifically talked to neighbors, make sure that what's being done is, first of all, complying with applicable law as far as regulation and all that stuff, and making sure that it's predictable and limited as to when things take place there. So neighbors will be able to plan accordingly. For example, there's nothing that takes place during the summer.
Yeah, so they do have to comply with DEC laws. So that's also, I think there was a question.
It's also 8 AM, that was the number I was thinking about, 8 AM and 4 PM.
Correct.
So, I mean, we're
That's
trying
a
to
lot.
address all the things historically there were supposedly, for example, trucks that were lining up well before 7 AM, things like that. So we're.
And
trying to
the
address
other item I'd like to point out, and this was not originally in line with what the what Hickory wanted, was the fact that it would include storm created debris. Initially, they wanted that to be separate.
Right.
they would have charged us separately for that.
Like
Now
an
it's
add-on kind of
incorporated,
result.
right?
No, and I think that's the most attractive thing of this. And we had talked at one point of like, well, maybe to make it clear, we should separate these things and, charge more for the lease, but then we should, pay for it. But for me, this is like an insurance policy. Because there's a lot of stuff that's going to be falling over the next couple of years and that way we're locked in and, we're protected from those costs. So.
And it addresses the question mark, which seemed to be present for a period of time, is what the source of stuff that was there. There are questions about that, so it addresses that.
As
It's
long
like
as-
an insurance
As
policy.
long as they meet your standards.
Yeah.
Right, so that
It's
was,
only our material.
it's only our material that they are permitted to process at the salt zone and no one else's material and not any material independently for their own business.
Exactly.
So I think it's important to point out to the public that a lot of, that the items that Rich worked on to
Rich,
incorporate into the
What
lease.
is that? Is
They're
not the
allowed to
case.
process their own.
They're allowed to process their own
Yes.
within the processing parameters. And they're required to take all of the town's
Debris away.
donations to that process as well.
Okay. And the items that Rich worked on to incorporate into the lease can be found under Article 3, is that right?
Those are the restrictions on operation, yes.
And also the important point, like Dan was talking about the insurance policy, in other words, it prevents from them as boxing out, as it were, saying, okay, we can't take care of the town stuff because we've done some of our own stuff, as it were. So it's a really important provision, as Dan pointed out here, to ensure that the town's needs get met without limitation by way of space or quantity without cost.
In other words, their business is not going to push out our business, that they will always make time for us first before their own business.
Exactly.
It seems as if that you've made enough changes to make sure that they won't repeat the mistakes.
Of the past.
Well, it wasn't necessarily mistakes, it's the fact that it wasn't written well enough to ensure that the
Standards.
neighborhoods.
Totally different
It's
agreement.
totally different neighborhoods.
That was totally different.
Yeah.
instrument That exists.
This is, we've gone a long way from the back of the napkin stuff, and this is something that I've interviewed neighbors, I've talked to people at Highway and other people involved to make sure that the needs of all concerned are addressed, as well as having the economic benefit, making sure that there's regulatory compliance and environmental protection are all in place.
And even though it's a 3-year lease, if they default on the parameters in here, we can terminate the lease with 30 days.
You have a termination provision.
Yeah,
Is that Article 13?
Article 13 default.
So if they break their word. Out they go.
Correct.
I mean, it's also, and this hasn't, was this whole agreement, this wasn't posted, what's it, before? You think with this, no,
Posted on our website?
no, right, it wasn't.
No.
So, I mean, just for full transparency here, we have a good work product. I wouldn't mind putting this on the agenda 2 weeks from now, so we make sure we have the best possible result and something that's open and transparent for the community. And we'll put it on for the next meeting, really, for, and if anybody wants to put anything that might be constructive and beneficial to the community, gives people an opportunity to do so in an open and transparent way.
And that's fine. There's no issue with this.
It's not time sensitive or anything to that
I
effect.
think the only thing that comes to mind is the time sensitivity to when they do the mortgage processing. I think that's in here.
Well,
You're shut down between July 4th and Labor Day, and Memorial Day and Labor Day.
And it's not going to
Nothing
expire.
goes on there. Right?
Yeah, like the offer.
The offer.
The offer,
About
the contract, okay. I thought, it was-
Business.
okay.
So, and if we have it in 2 weeks, the idea is we would have it, so it goes into effect immediately. So it starts, so we're at May 8th, so if we had something May 22, and we tie it into an authorization to sign immediately.
Still gonna be June 1st before you, either night. Right, so.
It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I move we table. A second.
Discussion? All in favor?
I was an agenda item. Next to the meeting, so, because that'll be put on the, I guess.
And we'll
town
have
website and
the
out to-
webmaster post the contract for everybody to read.
Send Jen what you want posted.
Yeah,
Johnny?
I'll do that.
Yeah, because if you don't, she doesn't know it posted.
Okay. Okay,
Thank you.
next we have resolution, this is also related to the highway department, to reject the bid for the salt dump body. So you were all copied in the exchange. Several of us had with the highway superintendent. And after having a final discussion with him, he did agree that we don't need, especially since we're going to be ordering a truck, which still needs to be approved by the board.
One instead of the two we looked over. Right?
Well,
The-
he still wants two, but you know, we have to discuss that. So
That's.
Well, we had one that
still
was like a dual
issue.
purpose, right, or something.
Right,
That's what
and
we had.
that's the one we're talking.
yeah,
about.
so this salt dump body was gonna go into an existing truck. That's an older truck, and I question how much longer are we gonna use that truck if it's one of the oldest or not the oldest. So he agreed to hold off on the combination salt dump body and just order, which will have to be approved by the board as well, order a regular dump body. And what triggered that discussion was the work that Dan did in identifying for half the price, the dump body, right? Now, there was of course, with the salt dump body and the existing truck, there was some customization work. They needed to fit it to that existing truck, and that was part of the cost. And the cost was like $89,000 approximately. And for a simple dump body, it's approximately half of that. So the highway superintendent is okay with going that route, as long as he can get a new truck, which we had already approved the borrowing for. So we have to, since we had bids for that salt dump body, we now need to reject that bid.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, on to the second public comment, which is for the new business only. Anybody here?
Yes, I would like to address the business.
Excuse me, I have to come up to the podium.
So the people on Zoom can hear you. And introduce yourself.
All right.
For those who don't know you.
And Hamlet.
I'm Donna Moksiski. I live in the Lake Kitchewan Beach community. Thank you very much. I'd just like to address new business resolution B, Mr. Majib's peddler license. I'd like to know the date that he's coming into our town, because I'm concerned anyone that has a website with Majib Guns and Firearms School, I want to make sure I'm out of town on that date. What date is he to be appearing in our town?
It's my understanding he wants to sell his items during the South Salem Fireman's Parade up and down.
So that's in August? No, that's in August.
I don't have the
It's
exact
usually in
date.
August.
Yeah.
Okay, and not the Memorial Day? Because I'd like to participate Memorial Day with my grandkids.
But just
He's only selling vinyl balloons, plush toys, silly string beads, horns, hats, light up swords, ninja swords, noisemakers, dogs on a leash, light up toys, Pokemon cards. They all
Yes.
sound like games.
Yeah, and-
There's nothing else.
So just to clarify, the application came from Majid Enterprises, but he does have another limited liability corporation that you mentioned,
Yes, Guns and Firearms School.
right?
Yes.
So
Having a son in global security and having just appeared at the massacre in Allen, Texas, because he's based as a former Navy SEAL out of Dallas, Texas. I want to make sure I'm out of town. Thank you.
Thank your son for his service.
Thank you.
Anybody else here for public comment? How about on Zoom, Janet?
Yes.
Carol? I'm asking you to unmute. Carol Burnett?
Yes, hi, it's Carol Cernak. I'm almost getting sick of the sound of my own voice here, but as far as the soil bid goes, I'm not clear where that bid went out for public procurement, because it was said once that it did. And then I think Greg said that it did not because it was under the allotted amount. But I would also like to know if there's more than 740 cubic yards of soil, how much soil is in there? Let's start from a blank slate. I'm not sure why we're awarding partial awards, throwing a bone to somebody to remove 740 yards when there could be twice as much as that. The other thing is on the salt dome lease, I don't have a bone to pick with Hickory Homes. The only bone I have to pick is that the town engaged in a contract with Hickory Homes that was not legal and not secure and not above all the parameters that they would hold all us citizens to, all our tax-paying citizens to. And I think that the town board is negligent in not being prepared enough based on my letter that I sent and the information I sent to respond correctly. I thank you for your time. I thank you for your energy, but I don't think you got it quite right. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Asking Letitia to unmute.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I just wanted to make a little quick announcement for Juneteenth. If that's okay, can I speak about it? Okay, so
It's not new business. It's not new business, Letitia, but yeah.
Something tells me
It's up to
Mary
the
will have
board.
something to say. I can't. Oh, that's right. Go ahead, Letitia.
So Juneteenth, June 17th from 12 to 5. We're gonna have live music, the jazz trio. We're gonna have a performer. We're also going to have an African drummer and dance workshop for families. The Katona Museum of Arts will also have an activity table there. Crafts and games, a DJ, dance party, and the Lions will be grilling. So the admission is free. But on the other hand, we would like donations to help. You can send the checks to the town of Lewisboro for Juneteenth. And if there's anyone that would like to volunteer, can you please email Mary? And I'm pretty sure we will have a great time, you all. I know last year, whoever didn't make it last year, I'm hoping you can attend this year, and I guarantee you will have a good time. You can hold me to it.
Thanks, Letitia.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Letitia. Next, I'm asking Simone Petromelis to unmute.
Hi again. I just wanted to clarify if we're following rules or not following rules, and who gets to bypass rules and who doesn't get to bypass rules. Public comment 2 was new business on what you spoke about. I just really want some clarification there. Thank you.
Thank you, Simone. That's it.
That's it. Okay. All right, next we have approval of claims. Select a motion that we approve claims. Do I have a second? Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Polling of the board. We'll start with Dan.
Let's see. First of all, I just want to clarify the first public comment period. Glenn got up there and was saying we were gonna borrowed for 2.1 million. That was at least confusing because the proposal that was made was for a referendum to bond. So is it saying we're signed a bond? It's like, we think, we can put this out to the public and the public can decide. So he seemed to be pretty excited about that. And I just want to make sure that people are clear about that. If they don't want to do it, if they don't think these upgrades that people have been asking for 15 years are actually popular, then it'll get voted down, and that's that. So it's just the way it goes. Let's see. Besides that, and he was also talking about the road paving, and I don't understand where, because I basically agree with him that they need to be paid, and this has been paid and paid for, and I said this every budget period that it should be part of the regular budget and not borrowed for, because it's an annual thing. It's not a like a one-time purchase. So I'm not sure why he was off on that. That was kind of weird. And then the gun thing that I raised last time, why did I raise it? I raised it because there were 2 more mass massacres as there were just last weekend again. And I thought, there's a little something we could do. And the thing that I mentioned, I'll say it again, it's just that there are some municipalities where at least the police have a process. If you want to turn in a gun that you have no need for anymore, or you're not comfortable with, or you inherited it, or you bought it 3 years ago because like you heard a bunch of stuff and you were like kind of frightened, but now you're thinking it's not a good idea, that there's a process to turn that in. Simply, you call in and like you make an appointment, then just to make a contribution by helping to manage at least the guns that people actually don't want. So it's a very modest little thing. And I sent the sort of reference procedure that I did find from this other municipality, and I recommend that we send it to the chief just to review it and see what he thinks of it, see if he wants to massage it in a certain way or he has some kind of feedback. So that's all.
Just want to remind everyone that our first Hamlet workshop is this weekend, May 13th, for Cross River and Golden's Bridge. It will be held at the town planning offices at 79 Fountain Road in South Salem from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. and then again from 2 to 4. So this weekend is the Cross River and Golden's Bridge specific meeting. Please come in person and participate. And the following meetings will be May 20th for Wacabuck and South Salem and June 10th for Vista and Lewisboro. But we kick off this weekend with the Cross River Golden's Bridge meeting on May 13th. For the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee. This is the input from the hamlets for their specific areas and the ideas and things that they would like to see specific to their hamlets. In addition, it came up during public comment inquiry as to where we were with the update of the ethics code. And as you all know, I distributed a proposed draft with additional follow-up questions for my fellow board members to consider so that we could have further productive conversation in coming up with a final draft that I would like to propose to the town at that point. I have not yet received any feedback from my fellow town board members on those inquiries and questions that I made, but I would like to have it added to the next town board agenda for discussions so that we can make some progress before the summer kicks in.
Mary.
May is Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and it's also Jewish American Heritage Month, as well as Mental Health Awareness Month. You'll see we've started putting up ribbons around town to remind everyone that mental health is health, and that it's important that we address that
as well. On May 13th, the Vista Fire Department will be holding its annual spaghetti dinner, and I will be there ready to this Saturday. And the food is being donated by La Vista Restaurant, and we thank them for that donation. Off the top of my head, I do not. I think it's, I think so.
It's, I think I have it
5
here.
to 8.
Yes.
I believe it's
5 to
5 to 8. If I'm wrong, please don't descend upon me. But it raises money for the volunteer fire department. And it's a good time for everybody to come together.
Thank you, Mayor. Rich?
Nothing for me this evening.
No, okay. So I have a couple things. So to reiterate what Dan said about the borrowing that came out of the initial presentation we had at the last board meeting. Yeah, that'll be done by referendum. So it's the residents voted, not the town board. There's no commitment to any borrowing at this point in time. There was a Cinco de Mayo event on Friday at the Yellow Monkey Village, which I went to for a little bit. This was an event that was thrown by the organizer, who received permission from the town for this outdoor event, and it was well attended and lots of fun. So looking forward to doing more of those in town. The playground, the new playground, it's looking really good, but it's not finished. And we've had reports of families allowing their kids to go through the fencing to use the playground. It is off limits. It is dangerous because the surface area is not finished. So kids can trip, get hurt. So I'd like to remind everyone to wait until June 3rd, which is when we actually will kick off the playground. And there's
The ribbon cutting.
the ribbon cutting ceremony. That's what I was looking for. Yeah. So look, that's on June 3rd at 11:30 a.m. So mark your calendars.
We have posted signs and open, right, at the town park, not to.
Yes, there's a fence. There's a fence, but
but
there's like narrow openings and kids sneak in and.
Right, we should make sure the sign posted.
Yeah, so-
Trespass on that.
No, there are signs, so, let's see, the comprehensive plan, so I actually dusted off our text alert system. I don't know if anyone here is signed up for that, but if you did, you would have received the Lewisboro text message about the upcoming Hamlet workshops.
I'm on there.
Should get on it, register, but we'll have to market that because it's a tool that I'd like to see us use more often.
It's a good one.
And we have an agreement with New York Alerts to use their platform. So it did go out successfully today to 898 people that are
I want to
registered.
be on there.
Yeah. Did you get it? Okay, good.
Yeah.
I was wondering why.
Why you got it?
No, I thought that it came from the committee itself, and I was like, wow.
Well, the committee asked us to, because Mary mentioned it at a meeting that we had this system.
I did.
And so,
And
Yeah.
we hope to get it in place for everyone in the town of Lewisboro in case we have an emergency.
right,
Say, for example, if the tree goes across Route 35, to let everyone know. So
right.
look at the town website on how to sign up for the emergency response system. Thank you.
Yeah, and one more thing regarding Oak Ridge Water, it was mentioned by Simone. So I have been given updates to we have a committee that I formed that's made up of folks represented in different segments of Oak Ridge. So they are in tune with what's going on. I do send out email alerts. So if you haven't subscribed to the town emails and specifically check off Oak Ridge, there's a specific alert that I will send out on occasion related to Oak Ridge. We are still waiting on health department approval on the design of the system that's going to put in this carbon filtration system. I actually met with the health department last month together with Delaware Engineering.
That's Westchester County Department of Health.
Correct.
They're on that
Yeah.
phase, okay.
Yeah, so I met with them in Mount Kisco. They're recommending, without getting into the nuts and bolts of the approval process, they've in order to get the approval, they've asked us to make one more change to the design. And it has to do with the efficacy and the duration of the carbon that's going to be being used as another level of filtration. So they want to be able to have room in the facility for a potential third vessel of carbon. So Delaware just delivered that design last week on Thursday to both the state and the county Department of Health, and together with a letter from the supervisor, just agreeing that, post the meeting that, these are the new parameters, and that we are aware that if the carbon, they have, now I'm going to get to the nuts and bolts, they have a requirement that the carbon lasts at least 6 months. In their calculation, they say it's going to last less than that. In our calculation, including the lab that tested the water, they said that the carbon efficacy will be much longer than that. So we're at an impasse, and the health department basically said, okay, we'll approve, but you got to have room to add a third carbon vessel. So that change was made. It was submitted to them, both to the state and the county, and hopefully we'll get the approval soon. As far as the financing, the EFC, the New York State Environmental Facilities Corp., which we received a grant for over $1.2 million from. The grant agreement is not in place yet because they're waiting for health department approval. The $1.8 million federal grant through the EPA that we were successful in getting through Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney's office. I'm going through the process now. It's a very complicated process dealing with the federal government to get the grant agreement in place. So it's slow going, but we're going to get there.
Why is that not surprising?
Right, exactly. So, and in terms of any water testing, and I've mentioned this to Simone multiple times, if you have any results you'd like to share with me, please do. I know we've been talking about this for over about 2 years, but if you have results, send them to me. Right now, I don't have any negative feedback from anyone else at Oak Ridge. We actually started flushing again. So we have a new flushing schedule to flush the water out of the mains, just to maintain, remove sediment and things like that. And knock on wood, I haven't had any complaints. And usually when there's flushing, there are complaints because it stirs things up. So that's a good indication that the water is has less sediment than it used to. So I think we're making some good headway there. And I think that is all I have. So. Next, announcements. The next town board meeting is Monday, May 22nd at 7:30 p.m. at the Townhouse here, 11 Main Street, South Salem. So now I'd like to motion to go into executive session to discuss real estate and a personnel issue. Second. Discussion? All in favor? Aye.